Episode 99 of the Interpretation Station is called to order. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a new episode done in the Agony Aunt style, in imitation of my YouTube hero, Scotty Kilmer. Scotty Kilmer, he's one of the top YouTubers when it comes to all things to do with cars. Scotty's on about, 10 million subscribers. I'm currently floating along on about 824, so we're getting there. We're catching him very slowly, very, very slowly. Anyway, without further ado, let's get straight down to this week's questions and answers, the questions that you've been putting to me through the various social media platforms. And today's opener comes from a Mr. James Rowland. And first of all, can I just say, James, what an outstanding surname you have. Truly excellent. You even spell the Rowland correctly. What more can be said? So you have the honor, sir, of the first question here. And James asks me, actually, he says, I wonder if I could ask you a little about your career progression. I'm in the middle of what feels like thousands of job applications at the moment. Still not entirely sure of what I really want to do. And I found it helpful to hear about the paths that others have taken. How did you progress from your degree to the work you do now? Okay, so I'll just give you a very quick summary of my progression. So I studied at St. Andrews University. I graduated in 2000, so I graduated just before Prince William and Kate went to St. Andrews. We missed each other by 3 months. I studied Russian and international relations, so I was really made to be a diplomat, I guess, with that sort of combination. Never really fancied the idea, though. I just did it because, hell, I was, you're young, go to university, do a degree, get pissed, and then worry about getting a job later. So I'm still at about that stage 20 years later now. Anyway, so what happened after that? After that, then after I graduated, the language, my work, and had nothing to do with my degree. So I spent about 2 or 3 years selling, on the one hand, door-to-door sales of gas and electricity. Oh yes, very, very much essential early work experience for any diplomat, I think you'll agree. After that, I spent another couple of years selling advertising space for a publishing company down in London. Cornhill Publications, they were called, down in Edgware Road. Again, essential work for any who want to be diplomat. Anyway, fast forward a few years, needed to get a proper job. I'd had a kid, needed to take life a bit more seriously. And so I had this degree, in Russian international relations. For it's a ticket to ride, ultimately. And I decided, I'm going to try and become an interpreter. Apparently, they get well paid. So I applied to the UN test. Remarkably, I got invited to the UN test because I guess I ticked all the necessary boxes. I had the Russian degree, I'd had experience speaking French, I'd spent time in a French country. I did my year out in Bordeaux, going to a lycée there. So I ticked all the boxes. So they invited me, even though I'd never had any experience interpreting. I sat the test and I failed miserably the first time, And then, but anyway, I'd started to remember some of my language skills. And I thought, I'm going to work on this. So I spent the next year or so, year and a half, really working on it. Basically, so I was working at the same time. I had a job. I was living in Serbia, in Belgrade. But I thought, as I said, I need something more long-term, more serious. So I started trying to teach myself to become an interpreter. The UN test came around a second time in 2008, and I sat it. And by this time, I was actually quite confident I'd do well. So I sat it and waited for the result, and the result came back, and I'd failed again, which was a bit of a bummer. Anyway, a couple of months later, though, early 2009, by this time, when the whole world is in the midst of the global recession, the crash and all that, I get an invitation to come to New York to do an internship. I was borderline, basically. I'd failed, but I was borderline, so they sort of saw I had some sort of potential. They invited me to go to New York to do a 1-month internship, which I did in the summer of 2009, I did work very hard for it. I am capable of working hard. I might seem a bit of a lazy bastard at times, oftentimes actually. Sometimes I can, put some work in though, put a day's work in, and I passed the freelance test at the end of it, and they offered me a job on the last day. They said, "You want to come to New York for a 6-month contract?" And I said, "Thank you very much. I'll think about it. Yes, I'll do it." And that was that, and that's how I started working at the UN. Now, James, I should point out, you see, with my language combination, I say this before, I have the Russian, you see. And the Russian does open a lot of doors for you when it comes to international organizations, especially the UN. Okay, if my combination had just been French and Spanish, it would have been much more difficult to get in because there's so much more competition, there's so much more availability of French-Spanish combination interpreters. So yeah, the Russian gave me a bit of a leg up, shall we say. James's own combination, he's got Arabic, French, and Persian, which is quite an unusual combination. I don't know if it's suited really to what they're looking for in international organizations, but I think all those languages have certainly got a lot of they're becoming increasingly prominent at an international level. If it's your aim to become an interpreter, let's say working for international organizations, you probably want to add another language. That's the only thing I would say, a more sort of mainstream language, Spanish perhaps, Russian perhaps. You've obviously got a talent for other languages that from other cultures, from other civilizations. You have the Arabic and the Persian. However, at the UN, if you come up and say, "I've got French and Arabic to work in the English booth," it's not what they're really after. So perhaps my advice is to try and add, as I say, a more mainstream European language, shall we say, Spanish being the most obvious option. And then, you see, if you have the Spanish in addition to your Arabic and Persian, you're going to open yourself up to be eligible, for the big international organizations. And to be honest, I can't help thinking with a combination like yours, in sort of in the government, the Foreign Office, that language combination could definitely become, it probably is sought after, and I imagine it's going to become even more sought after going into the future. So yeah, that would be my maybe advice to you, James. Maybe think about adding, as I say, a more mainstream language for now. Spanish is certainly the easiest, the most obvious option. Russian is the more adventurous option. It's the harder option to add, obviously. Russian is a harder language to add. Spanish would probably be a piece of cake if you've already got the French. Russian is the more adventurous option, but if you're going to add the Russian, then you'd be really in a strong position, I feel. So there you go, James. I hope that maybe gives you a couple of ideas. Now, the next question I've got, it's from Hannah. It's a very interesting question, very relevant to the UN test that's coming up, well, I guess next month and in January. And she asks, I was just wondering whether you happen to know if there is a limit on the number of times the global language roster examination can be taken. Say if I were to apply this year and not pass, would this limit my future chances? I did sit a Vienna-based test immediately upon graduating a few years ago too and didn't pass, but that wasn't officially an advertised test on the UN Korea's website. Okay, so now the answer I'm going to give you, I want to first make it perfectly clear that I'm not speaking in any capacity connected to the UN. This is not the UN's answer. Okay, this operation, the interpretation station, this is my own little pet operation, okay? So in no way am I speaking officially on behalf of the UN. This is the answer I'm going to give you is just based on what I have heard in the corridors, so to speak. Obviously, I work at the UN, and obviously I know quite a bit of what's going on. But nevertheless, what I have to say is just my own impression. This is not an official answer, all right? So I know that this year they're introducing this new system called VidCruiter, where the testing is all done remotely. So in the old days, you'd actually come to Geneva or to Vienna, or whatever, and you'd sit in the booth and you'd sit the test there in situ, in person. Okay, so they're not doing that anymore because of coronavirus and all that. So it's now all done remotely. And they've introduced this new system called vidcruiter. Now, there has been talk of there perhaps being a 3 strikes and out policy. Okay, where if you fail 3 times and you can't take it anymore. This hasn't yet been decided on. That's still up in the air. Okay. What is certain is that with the new system, everyone is going to start again from 0. Okay, so you're all back. The clock starts for everyone from 0. So the worst thing is, the worst case scenario is they introduce the 3 strikes and out, and you get okay, you fail 3 times, and then that's it. You're excluded after that. But at least you know that you're starting. Everyone starts from 0. That I am sure of. Okay, and to be honest, if you've graduated, if you've got the degrees, if you've got the qualifications, if you meet the criteria to sit the test, to be honest, my advice to you would be probably just to go and do it. You got to try it sometime. Okay. Often, you've almost got to accept that the first time you sit something like this, you're probably going to fail it. But that's just part and parcel of life. It's like with driving tests, isn't it? Most people fail the first time and the second time and the third time. I passed the fourth time, though. So, yeah, I mean, I know, if they do introduce 3 strikes and out, okay, you take 1, you fail it, you're down 1, but it's very hard. I think it's pretty rare for anyone to pass the first time. I think the first time it's about finding out what it's like, finding out what that pressure is like, and just so that the second time you come and do it, you're more prepared, you know what to expect. So that's just my, again, little bit of advice. That's how things seem to me. Okay, third question is a quick question, language related. So this question is from an old sparring partner of mine, old colleague, sort of friend of mine, JB. Remember JB's prying apart butt clenchers? Okay, we did for you Russianists out there. We did a whole episode. JB provided me all these questions about Russian. Great questions. I'm gonna put the link up to that video here, I guess. Or for all you Russisants, as we call them at the UN. Essential viewing. Anyway, so he's got another one for me, as old JB. And JB asks me, just in Russian, do I have any good solutions for the word algorithm? Algoritm действий. And as he says to me, they can't get enough of that when it's true. They do talk about algorithm a lot, algoritm действий. Sometimes it's translated as plan of action or action strategy, but that makes it sound like a document rather than a procedure or a set of actions. I don't know. Any thoughts? And he wishes me happy bonfire night. So you can all guess when he sent me that, can't you? The 5th of November. Remember the 5th of November. Algorithm. Yeah, I think he's maybe overcomplicating JB. To be honest, when I hear that algorithm, the first couple of words that spring to my mind are tempo and rate. Okay. Work rate even. Okay. I think I don't think you should read too much into it. Okay, they might say at the current work rate, at the current tempo. I would, as you say, I think to call it a plan of action or an action strategy is to read more into it than is the intention. Okay, so as I say, the 2 words that really come to mind are tempo, this tempo of work, or this work rate. Okay, if you got a better idea, any other suggestions, stick them down in the comments. Anybody? Okay, coming then, and he asked me, one other question then that JB asks me, again vocabulary related for you Russisants. Okay, the expression неугодный режим. Do you have anything short and snappy for this? Comes up all the time. Does come up all the time. Inconvenient regime, he asks. My understanding of it is regimes that don't suit the West's agenda. Absolutely. Some colleagues say regimes that have fallen out of favor, but that's too long for my liking. So yeah, I agree with all of that. Okay, he's dead right. These are regimes that the West doesn't get along with. I would say here, dissenting regimes, okay? So неугодные, here he gives me the example of a regime, неугодные группы. The word really, when you hear неугодные, the best word to go for is dissenting, okay? That's what I always say, okay? So I hope that, again, if you got a better idea, put it in the comments, but I'm pretty guy, I like dissenting. Okay, final question. The question of the day comes from Kerry, and it's somewhere on my mobile phone. I've got to find it. Give me a second. So this question, as I say, it's from Kerry, who is another sometimes contributor to the show. She's done quite a lot of these statements, the recordings of some of the episodes that I've made. Anyway, Kerry asked me, what is a very germane question? That's a nice word, germane. All right, germane question, if you're planning to sit the UN tests, be it the freelance or the competitive coming up. And she asked, quick question, is there a way to access conference recordings from Unov, okay, the UN in Vienna? Feels like a big blind spot in my practice that I need to tackle. Okay, so I usually use the UNOG recordings, and lots of the statements that I do, I will give you, in the description box, I'll give you the link to where to find it in the, is it unog/digitconference.unog digital recordings, okay? But that's only the Geneva organizations. So, in the exam, they could ask you, for material from any of the, technically, any of the UN headquarters any of these committees, okay, including the ones in Vienna, and you have some important UN committees that meet in Vienna. You have UN Office on Drugs on Crime, the International Atomic Energy Association, you have the Disarmament Commission. Okay, so it's a good question. Okay, you probably do want to practice a bit of the stuff, the material from Vienna, because it's bit different to, well, what I do in Geneva, let's say. Now, for the answer here, the man I have to really thank here is another contributor to the show, actually, Sam Dyson. Thank you very much, Sam, for your answer, because he's provided me with a lot of material in response to Kerry's question. And at this point, I'm going to share the screen with you so that you can see exactly what he has recommended to me. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen now. I'm sharing. So the website he gives me is this up here, okay? streaming.iaea.org. So obviously this is for the International Atomic Energy Association. I'm going to leave all the links, by the way, in the description box as ever. Now, there's a sort of mixed bag of stuff you've got here. So this is the best example I'm going to give you is here. Okay, so you go to, for example, so you go here, 2021 live and on-demand streaming. You click that, and then it gives you the big conferences here that they've had at the IAEA, for example, this year. For example, you want to go to the 65th IAEA General Conference, let's say. Okay, and then it gives you a breakdown of all the various meetings that were part of that conference, okay, of the general conference. So if you go here to the, let's say, the plenary, GC plenary, okay, it gives you all the plenary meetings, okay, 24th of September, 23rd, 22nd, etc. So if I click on a random one here, okay, the 65th GC plenary, so this was on 20th of September. Okay, now this is a good one, right? Because look at this. It gives you a whole breakdown of who spoke at that meeting, for how long. Indonesia, Japan, Bangladesh, San Marino, Armenia, Norway, Belarus. Let's try Belarus, okay? So we got Belarus.
Excellency, Mr. Viktor Karenkovich.
Bob's your uncle, okay? You can choose what language you want to hear, the original, the Arabic, Chinese, the 6 UN languages. So you've got this whole chart. Yeah, you can just find the language that you want to practice and go for. Now, I can't find the. If anyone knows where to find the transcripts, that's even better. But at least you got a chance. You can practice all these different subjects. Now, sometimes it's not the same on every single one of these. Sometimes you'll go to a meeting. Now, not every meeting is set out like that with a breakdown. Sometimes you'll just go to a meeting. Let's say this is this latest one, okay, International Conference on Decade of Progress After Fukushima, and you'll go to it, opening, and that's all you'll get, the opening, all right? And you get some nice music coming over.
Or not.
there's not always a breakdown. So sometimes there is, sometimes there isn't. But there's plenty. I mean, there are certainly. You just have to look around a bit and find the ones where you do have a breakdown. Now, the other link that Sam gave me was for UNCITRAL. Now, UNCITRAL is the UN Commission on International Trade Law. This is very technical. I don't know if they would give you something from UNCITRAL in an exam. I think it's perhaps too technical. But nevertheless, if you're going to work in it, if you're going to be assigned to a meeting along those lines, there's loads of material for practice here. This is actually better set out than the IAEA one. So you have uncitral.un.org/en audio, and then you have all these meetings here. Look, they have every single meeting they've held this year. So you click on a random one. You've got here the commission sessions: Working Group 1, Working Group 2, Working Group 3, Working Group 4. Okay, these are the commission sessions. Let's go to the 30th of June 2021. Cool. And look, you've got a whole breakdown of the meetings: Vice Chair, Secretariat, France. You want to listen to France? You can listen to France. So it's set up very similarly to the Geneva ones, the UNOG ones. And you have, again, you have the choice of language, similar again to the UNOG ones. You can have the floor, you can have the interpretation into whichever language it is you want. So that's really good for UNCITRAL. So there you go. That's uncitral.un.org/audio. So I think I had it up as in before, the English, specifically the English one. So this is the one. So again, this is going to go in the description box. I'm also going to put in the description box some other ones that Kerry came back to me with that were from UNODC, UN Office on Drugs and Crime, the CTBTO Preparatory Commission, and the UN Office for Outer Space Affairs. So I'm going to put all those links down in the description box. So really good material for practice there. So it's a bit different, it seems, in Vienna. Each institution seems to run its own page, whereas in Geneva it's all sort of lumped together. And one final thing that Sam gave to me, another link that's very helpful for the Russisans, is the Vienna mission, the Russian mission at Vienna. They post, it seems, all of their statements that are delivered. Here you have statement by the permanent rep there to Russia, Ulyanov, at the plenary. So if for you Russisans out there, these statements here, as I said, there's just the transcripts, but they always give a very good idea of what the Russian position is on nuclear issues of drugs and crime. It's good sort of general knowledge if you're going to be working from Russian. So there you go, the viennamission.mid.ru. Again, that will go into the description box. Okay, guys. Well, I hope that's been helpful for you this episode. I hope that's shed a bit of light on certain things that you might not have known about before. Please keep the questions coming in. Put them here in the comments. Send them to me via LinkedIn. Episode 100 is coming up very... You know what? I've actually already filmed episode 100. So this is episode 99. I've already filmed episode 100. Episode 100 is an absolute cracker. Trust me. We've got a great guest on episode 100. Oh, yes. So, yes, keep the questions coming in. Keep watching. There's also going to be a big thing coming out, I promise, in the next week or two. I'm putting the finishing touches to something. And that thing will be out, and it hopefully can help you perhaps in preparing for not just for the exam, just in general. Just wait and see. Just give me a week or two more. Okay, guys. With that, it's been a pleasure. Hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. I can't find my hammer here. There she is. There's my hammer, my gavel. And so all that remains to be said is that episode, like, subscribe, share, by the way, right? Yes, don't forget. Episode 99 of the Interpretation Station stands adjourned.